Welcome. How's everybody doing? It is Saturday, October 15th, 2022. Good to see you. Good to be here. You're in the lab. Got a great show for you tonight. Sat down with Candus Cooley just a couple days ago. Had a fantastic interview. Great conversation. She does so well with these interviews, and I appreciate her time and patience and so on and so forth. She like I said, she does an absolutely fantastic interview, and one of the things that I wanted to point out was, how relentless she is, along with her family, along with the father, Justin. These are amazing people doing amazing things and not giving up on their children. And we should see more of that. But, and tomorrow I'm going to have I'll have a Summer Wells special. I've talked about this case going cold, and I'm more convinced than ever now that it is, and I will tell you why tomorrow. But today we're going to talk about Dylan, and I'm telling you folks, this is maybe the third interview that I've had with Candis, and this one knocked my socks off. I was blown away by the stuff that we were talking about, and it was really just an amazing interview, good and bad. This was a tough thing, so we'll go ahead and when I play it, I'm going to do it uninterrupted, and that way, it's I don't want to comment on it while I'm doing it, because the interview kind of stands alone and for itself. So let me see here. Let's see. Yeah, it's like I said, this is the I've listened to a lot of interviews that she's done, and she does a great job of getting out there and telling the story, because somebody has to. Dylan doesn't have a voice, and so that's her thing. That's what she's dedicating her life to until she finds her child, as you'll hear. And it's just, like I said, an amazing interview, and we'll go ahead and just get to it. Are you comfortable and confident? Give me 1 second here. And I just want to make sure that everybody can hear it, and then, we'll rock and roll. I did get a haircut. Yeah, I get one every now and then, so I don't look like Wolverine. Because sometimes I do look like Wolverine if I don't get a haircut. Oh, between the beard and the long hair, it just gets out of control, and that's what happens to me. Okay, hold on. Chat box. All right, so that should be good. All right, well, here we go. Let's just start it. that if he's indicted for Dylan's murder, are you comfortable and confident that if he's indicted for Dylan's murder, that it will hold up in front of a jury? Welcome to the lab, everybody. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz, and today I am with Candus Cooley, mother of missing young man Dylan Rounds. Dylan has been missing now for 3 or 4 months?
Almost 5.
Almost 5 months now. It feels like yesterday when I first heard about this case. The time is going awfully fast, and not a lot of progress in the case. Some progress, but not a lot. And today there's some new, never before released information that just came out the other day. Candus, I got to ask you this. Were you given the blessing by law enforcement to release this information?
So what people need to understand with the information we released, us as a family found all of it besides the phone, and we'll get into that, but we were still there when we found it. All the information that we decided to hold close, we knew from day number 1, something was wrong. Day number 2 and day number 3, we knew something went really bad out there. We decided as a family to hold it close because that's what you're supposed to do. I will say we were never once instructed by law enforcement to not put this out there, and we're so frustrated now. We feel that the public needs to know what we're up against so that they fully understand why we are screaming so loudly against Box Elder.
Was there any hesitation on your part? I mean, obviously, since it just came out, but after you release these, and we'll go through them one by one, is there any regret? Was there any regret for putting this out?
No, I regret we didn't do it sooner. That's my regret. We should have done it sooner. We've disputed so many facts, hoping it would lead to something if we hold this close. But the fact of the matter is, all it is protecting Box Elder County and their downfalls and their negligence in Dylan's case. There's no other reason it shouldn't be released public because it's not going to harm his case. It truly isn't. And so I get a lot of backlash after we released a lot of this that says, well, you're harming an ongoing investigation. But as we go through it, people will understand how we are not. We are pushing for Box Elder County to make some charges to get to the suspect to talk to him. So
this was sent to me, and I do follow the Find Dylan Rounds official Facebook page, but I'm not on Facebook that often. And somebody had emailed me this, and they said, you might want to take a look at this. So I opened it up, and I said, well, that's interesting. And, then I reached out to you, and I said, it sounds like we got some stuff to talk about here, and I support the moves that you guys have to make. I don't know the relationship between you and Box Elder, other than it's contentious at best, and that they have refused to give up the case.
So I need to clarify a part of that for everybody. So as far as Box Elder is concerned, there are some amazing deputies that have helped us. Their search and rescue has been phenomenal and helped us. But a department is only as good as their leadership, and it has been their leadership that has failed. Their sheriff, their detectives. I don't want to blare Box Elder to the point that everybody in that department is bad, because that is absolutely not the case. But when your leadership doesn't say, go out and find this young man, or when your leadership says, hey, don't arrest this felon, when your leadership is guiding you, that's all you can do. So I want to be very clear. There is some amazing people in Box Elder County Sheriff's Department that is to this day still helping us. But they can only do what leadership tells them to do.
Noted. Absolutely. I completely agree with. Very good.
Yes.
And that is good to know as well. So right here in front of me, I have the list, and you have the bullet points. And so we'll just go, there's about 10 or so here. Yeah. Okay. So let's just, let's dive into the first one, and I'll just read it off, and then we can talk about it. The very first piece of information that you guys released on this list says that Dylan's pistol was returned by an unknown person to his camp trailer on June 1st, and it was located
Correct.
in the bathroom on a previously cleaned countertop.
So hang on. Let's just back it up and give everybody the full perspective. Day number 1, May 30th, Dylan's boots are found. Dylan's boots had not been out in that weather for more than hours. There's no dust. There's nothing. Okay. Day number 2, the 31st. We get the phone call that Dylan's being held hostage in Montello. We all drop ship and run. The next morning, June 1st, we all said the key fob came back. It was actually the gun first, and we've held that close. So June 1st, it was Dylan's pistol. So Dylan's pistol is sitting right on, so if you think of a little camper trailer, like a 30-footer, you walk in the bathroom and you come out of the bathroom, and right there's a kitchen or a bathroom sink. When we all went and searched that camper the first 2 days, his pistol case was there, but not his pistol. The bathroom was cleaned for Dylan's grandmother to use it by my ex-sister-in-law. She set her Clorox wipes or whatever she was using right on that sink. No pistol. Next day, there's the pistol. Not only is the pistol there, but the clip has been taken out of it, and they're laying side by side. And I will tell you one thing about my son. That pistol never left his pickup, and he damn sure never took the clip out. Got it. Ever.
So you don't know how it got back there, but it ended up back.
It's back.
Okay.
Okay. So box elder at this point is out there. They take pictures of where the pistol was found. The next day, June 2nd, Dylan's key fob to his Ford pickup is found in the exact same location on the sink, exactly where the pistol was the day before, after Fox Elder County had taken pictures. Still, they think nothing of it. Like, it's no big deal. Your son's going to come back, and we're screaming. Like, no, this is, first of all, Dylan absolutely never locked his pickup, ever. And he never removed that pistol, ever. When he would come to my house, and I know his dad would say the same thing, Justin would, it was always in the driver's side door or in the center console with the clip in it, just to have it.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty standard for, farm workers and being out in the middle of nowhere, animals and, God knows what else you need it for.
That same day, June 2nd, when the key fob comes back, is the same day that Brenner, the suspect, took it upon himself to pull Dylan's grain truck out of the shed. Mind you not, private property. He doesn't own it. He's a squatter. And proceeds to tell the sheriff that he is spring cleaning. Now, when the Diesel Brother interview comes out with Justin and I, we are sitting in the shed for that interview. There is garbage and Brenner's beer cans and stuff everywhere. Whatever Brenner cleaned out of that shed, and there has been evidence since found in the shed that we are not releasing because it's the FBI who found it, all he was doing was cleaning up, and he did it right under Box Elder County's nose. They allowed him to do it with a felony warrant out for his arrest.
Right. That's a major problem.
Huge.
Now on the second one where it's there was no DNA found in or on Dylan's pickup, the grain truck, the key fob, or the pistol.
And so everybody needs to also know that it was actually the Idaho State Police who did Dylan's pickup and Dylan's grain truck, because Box Elliott let us take it all home. The exact text message on my phone from Detective Blauer when I said, well, could we take the pickup home on Sunday, June 5th? He says, you folks do what you need to do. Okay.
What? So was Dylan's DNA found at all?
At that point, they didn't even have a profile for Dylan's DNA. Karen, Dylan's grandmother, she had water bottles, all kinds of stuff. His nose Afrin spray because he had bad allergies and was a farmer. I think it was 2 months before Box Elder actually gathered that. Box Elder County never took me or Justin's DNA or Colton's, our son, who would have been the best match. Elko County Sheriff's Department took Justin and I's, and then they had an FBI agent from the field office in Rexburg, Idaho, come down and take our sons and Dylan's friend who touched the key fob. Other than that, Box Elder has never collected anything from us. It's all been outside agencies.
Gotcha. And the reason I ask is I was wondering if the thought was that everything was just cleaned up and no DNA would be found at all because of the cover up of the crime.
Right. Yeah. So they do have Dylan's DNA profile now, but at the point when the pickup was processed, no, they didn't. And we know Dylan's DNA is all over the pickup, but I want to know who else's was. You know, the pickup being in 4-wheel drive, the seat being scooted up, and I know there's so many mothers out there like me that are short and have a tall son, and when you get in their pickup, you know if somebody else has been driving it. Like did Dylan
make a habit of letting other people drive his truck?
Absolutely not.
I mean, that's something that is cemented, like it's concrete. You know,
it is concrete
that he would not let other people take or drive his truck.
No, absolutely not. So then, as we move forward, okay, so gun comes back, key fob comes back. Box Elder is still basically out there mocking us, laughing at us, lying to us. I mean, we have the phone recordings, we have everything. So Friday, Weber County comes out with their search and rescue, and they were amazing. They came out with a chopper, they came out with dogs. Weber County came out in full force. So I asked one of the Weber County search and rescue guys, I said, at what point do we call the public search? Like, we're holding back thousands of people wanting to come find Dylan. And he said, now would be a good time because Box Elder's not going to come back out. So that Friday on Facebook and between all the friends and family, Saturday morning, we had over 300 people out there, campers pulling in people. We don't even know the family. Nobody in the family knew coming to find Dylan. That whole Saturday during the search, my mom and some of my cousins and some of our friends helped us, and we started figuring out the map system and having everybody dropping us pins and where they were at and everything. We had absolutely no help from Box Elder. We had one sheriff out there who I proceeded to chew his ever-loving butt because he told me, I said, what is going on? And he said, well, I don't know. Your son's case will resume on a Zoom meeting Monday morning at 11 o'clock. A full week after the missing person, finding Dylan's boots, all the evidence we had, I get told our son's case will resume on a Zoom meeting.
Right. I mean, that's just terrible.
Yeah, I completely, I lost it. I truly lost it. And then apparently I lost it enough. He just left. We had no help. We were literally left in the desert to find our son by Box Elder County. Truly. And that is not an exaggeration. We get a lot of people asking, well, are you sure you're not the crazy, frantic parent? No, this is truly what happened to us.
So next on here is that Dylan's phone was found and we're fast forwarding to June 18th. In a pond, the Lucent Pond, by Box Elder Search and Rescue. Yep. So
and that's a natural spring.
Okay.
If I had to bet my life on it, I would say my son's wallet was in there also. But Dylan only ever kept like his driver's license and his debit card in there, and so that pond is a natural spring. It's not very deep, maybe like 4 feet, and then it flows in underground. So the natural spring of water has been pumped out, the system that they've developed for it, and then it flows back underground. The phone was heavy enough to settle. We've never found Dylan's wallet to this day. I can about guarantee you it was thrown in there also, but it was wide enough it got carried away by the current.
How big is this pond?
Oh, I don't know, maybe 10 by 12 feet.
So the person that is responsible for what happened to Dylan was discarding his belongings. Is that the thought?
Correct. Yeah, it's not the thought. We've seen the proof of it.
Right. And how far away is that from the camper?
So, hang on. We got to set the whole what we know now and what we released.
Sure.
So, we know when Dylan called Grandma that morning, he was actually at the gate that goes onto the property that Brenner was squatting on. He called Brenner first, and I know the reason he called Brenner was to get him to come unlock the gate. When he couldn't get hold of Brenner, he called Grandma in a panic, like, I got to get my grain truck in. I got to get it in, and I'll just call you back. I guarantee you my son laid down the gate. Simple, like for all you hunters out there, if you're out antelope hunting or something, and you come up to this little stick gate, all you do is take the barbed wire off, even if it's padlocked or not, and just untwist the wire and lay the gate down and drive over it. Dylan's phone then pinged at the grain shed. The shed, everybody calls it a grain shed, so I use that, but there was no grain in the shed. That's just where he parked his grain truck. From there, it stayed right there, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes. I don't know the exact timeline. And then Dylan's phone all day long went from his farm back to Brenner's place, back to his farm, and then back to Brenner's place. Then his phone left Brenner's place, went up along the railroad track, which nobody would know. Like, you got to be able to get into Brenner's gate to get to this property to get up to Loose End Pond on the backside. That's when his phone was dumped in the pond.
Was that on June 5th?
No, that was the day Dylan went missing. His phone was dumped in the pond on May 28th at 2:31 p.m.
That's when it went offline.
The day Dylan went missing, the day everything happened was the day his phone was dumped in the pond. And so then people say...
Right, and then it wasn't found until the 18th.
June 18th. And then people say, well, sometimes they say 3:51 and sometimes they say 2:51, but people got to realize you're right there against Pacific and Mountain Time.
Right, correct.
So depending on which tower you pull it off of, depends on what time you're going to get. Brenner also placed himself at the pond to the people that interviewed him in the beginning before he lawyered up. He said, well, I was home all day Friday and I was home all day Saturday and I never seen Dylan. Well, how did you not see him? His phone was there. Dylan was there. And then I went to Don's to have dinner. I stopped at the pond before I went to have my dinner with Don, who was like another 2 miles away. So he's already placed himself at the pond pretty much at the exact same time Dylan's phone was thrown in it.
Right. Okay, so we're going to get into some James Brenner stuff here. I don't know how much you want to talk. I know we talked a little bit off the air, and trust me, don't divulge anything that you don't want to at this moment.
Oh, no, it's all public information. Anybody can find it.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll talk about this, and then we will dovetail into that, where James Brenner has been attempting to call members of your family.
Not attempting. He has spoken with Dylan's father, Justin, and he has spoken with Dylan's grandparents, Larry and Karen. There's no attempt. He has reached out. And I want to make it very clear, regardless of what anybody says, and if they say they've been talking to Brenner, it's a lie. Besides talking to Justin and Larry and Karen, those are the first outgoing phone calls he's ever made. How
long did he talk to Justin for? And by the way, Justin is the father of Dylan Rounds.
Yeah. You only get a 20-minute phone conversation.
And Justin talked to him for that 20 minutes?
I think they burnt pretty much close to all of it. So did Larry and Karen the first time.
How was that? How did that conversation go? Was it contentious?
It was pointing everything to Chase. Chase did it. Look at Chase. It was all Chase. That's all Brenner can go on is it was Chase. And we don't say cleared by anybody. Like, nobody's cleared until we find Dylan and find out who did it. But we know for a matter of fact from cameras, phone records, public cameras, not private ones, Chase was nowhere in the area when Dylan went missing.
And we'll definitely get into that here in a bit as well. So now that he's calling, Justin and other family members and talking to them, not just attempting. He was told not to, correct?
Yeah, by his attorney, he was pretty much told not to talk to anybody.
Sure, right.
And we can just talk about this now when we're on it. Brenner's public defender has dropped him for conflict of interest, and I believe that conflict of interest, about a month ago, Brenner wanted to start defending himself.
Right.
And they tried to keep that from happening, so I believe, the paperwork, and I'll send this to you, Josh, so you can put it up, but
Sure.
The paperwork says conflict of interest, and the public defender is no longer going to represent him. I'm about 100% positive that's because he decided to call the family.
Well, so that's the thing is that, a public defender can't just drop off. They have to actually petition the court.
They did. I got the papers.
That's amazing, and a judge signed off on that. I mean, so there's substantial reasoning for this.
Yeah, and I think because he wanted to represent himself anyways over a month ago. He wanted to be his own representation. So if you fight against your public defender and you won't listen to what they say and you say you want to represent yourself, then yeah, the public defender bows out.
Yeah, that if they feel like their advice and counsel isn't being followed, they can petition the court, and it sounds like that. But Brenner does have every right to defend himself by law in court. It's a terrible idea, but people do it all the time. I mean, it's lawyers don't even represent themselves when they're on trial. They hire lawyers.
Well, my personal feelings, and you can just take it as my personal feelings. Brenner wants to talk. Brenner wants to say what he did. Brenner wants to admit to what he did. I mean, he's a terrible person, but he's also a snap moment person. And after he has those snap moments, I truly believe there's still a little bit of a conscience, and he feels bad about what he did. Why else would you reach out to the family?
Well,
why else?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I think that he's probably trying to run a narrative as well.
Yeah, and you know what? Let him run it. As long as we get Dylan, we're not concerned with Brenner. Like, justice will have its way with Brenner. We just want our son home. We want to bring our son home, and we want to give him everything he deserves. That is our focus. We can sit and we can be angry and we can be mad and we can hate and despise Brenner, but whatever happens to him, justice will come to him. We just want Dylan. That is our focus, is not putting Brenner away for life. That'll come in time. Give us our son back.
Right.
We need our son.
One step at a time. Now, this next one here is very interesting. James Brenner's DNA was found on Dylan's boots, found behind the dirt mound on the shed property.
Correct.
Can you expand on that for me?
Yep. So the story behind that is when the FBI got to talk to him before he lawyered up, and they said they were going to test the boots for DNA, and asked, is your DNA going to be on it? And he said yes. And his reasoning for that is he found the boots by the shed, moved them not once, but twice. Moved them from the shed by his camper, and then decided to put him out by the dirt mound. So if you guys go back to that Diesel Brothers, it's the first time they came out and flew, and it's all over Dylan's Facebook page, you'll clearly see that mound of dirt hasn't been disturbed in years. It's not even of relevance. But he had to walk probably, I don't know, anywhere between 200 and 300 yards to go put Dylan's boots out there. The reason we believe he did it, his reason is because, Dylan was done with him. Well, you're talking about a mound of garbage all around Brenner, all around him, in the shed, around his camper. It's ridiculous. But you take a pair of boots and walk them out and drop them where nothing else is there, where you don't take any other garbage. That does not make any sense. So we do know for a fact Brenner's the one who put boots there. And those boots had no dust, no remnants from being out in the rain that Saturday, and it poured. They looked like they hadn't been there for 4 or 5 hours max. We are pretty sure as a family, our thoughts are as soon as he knew we were coming, he went and discarded the boots behind the pile, thinking that we were all going to go the opposite direction to look for Dylan towards his farm and his camper and not go the other way. And
I'm here with Candus Cooley, mother of missing young man Dylan. For those that are just joining us, Dylan went missing from Lucin, Utah, his farm, close to 5 months ago now, and discussing never before released information. Now, the DNA on the boots, it seems to me as though in the very, I believe, not the next thing, but we'll get into the spring cleaning, that by all accounts, James Brenner was kind of a mess. He was just kind of a sloppy human, meaning, he was dirty. He was, didn't care about trash and stuff like that. But yet, he's concerned enough to move somebody's boots that aren't his.
Yep.
So how did he, obviously, he says that he moved them just because.
Just picked him up not once, twice, and then the third time took him out because he figured Dylan wasn't coming back for it.
And why would he figure that?
That's a really good question. I will tell you. From day number one, we showed up on the ground. The two people out there that were close by the whole time, Don and Jim, from the day one we showed up, they talked about Dylan in the past tense.
Right. Got you.
From day one, it was past tense.
I mean, that's damning in itself. It's not.
It should have been, Josh, and people got to realize, you have a missing 19-year-old young man. You have his boots that have blood on it. You have a violent criminal with a felony warrant from the same county, and nothing was done. A felony active warrant for felony aggravated assault, and they still didn't arrest him.
Yeah, at the time of the disappearance, he shouldn't have even been out.
He shouldn't have even been out there. He should not have even been out there. He served time for attempted murder charges that he was prosecuted on.
Right.
He should not have even been out there to be around our son. And you think about it, they shook this man's hand. And on day number 2, they moved headquarters, as we call it, from searching for Dylan off of Brenner's, what they say his property, which was not his property, that was initials, JC's property, who Dylan had permission to be on, and we had full permission. We get chased off of private property because they say we're aggravating Brenner. We're aggravating and irritating him. He has no right to be there. He has a felony warrant,
right,
and we have to move because Box Elder County Sheriff's Department didn't want to aggravate him.
Oh, yeah. Well, bummer. That's once again, we're getting into perpetrators having more rights than the victims and the victims' families and standard stuff. Honestly, it really is standard operating procedure these days. I'll tell you that. It's wrong. It's wrong in a major way. You got this violent felon who should be incarcerated, and they're worried about him being agitated. That should be the least of their worries. Really, if they knew where he was at the time, he's a high risk. He's a high risk warrant.
Let me tell you where this is going to go. Since we called everything out, so Box Elder did send Brenner's warrant to the state of North Dakota because that's where his driver's license was from. The victim, who he beat up to the point he was in the hospital, was calling constantly saying, he's right here. Come get him. I'm scared of him. Box Elder wouldn't act on it. Box Elder County had their jail shut down until March of 2022 due to COVID. I believe it was March 10th they started executing warrants, unless it was a felony warrant. If it was a felony warrant, they were still executing those. The thing with Box Elder County is it is the armpit of the county, and they just choose not to go out there and do their job out there. They choose not to go out there. In April, and I'll send you all the supporting documents from the court, in April of 2022, right before Dylan went missing, they actually redid his warrant and made it non-bellable. So his first warrant was go pick him up, take him to the nearest jail, whether it's Box Elder, Weber, Salt Lake, wherever he was at, and serve him with the summons on these felony charges. So then it took a full year. That never happened. After that full year, the judge redid the warrant, and it says right in their court documents, non-bellable. They arrested Brenner finally on June 11th. They took him in on the warrant. They let him out on his own recognizance because they weren't even smart enough to see that the judge had changed it. He was not supposed to get bail.
Right.
So from there, he's released. He's back on June 12th. We're infuriated as a family. We're like, why is he out? Then it was June 16th was the first warrant that they issued on Brenner's personal property. knew there was black powder, pistols, ammunition, all that. So that's not a federal charge on gun charges. That's only a state charge. As far as a federal charge, you can have all the black powder you want. Still didn't arrest him. They finally went back on June 20th, and that's when he had hid the guns with Dawn and arrested him. And then it was the FBI who came in that got Dawn to fess up that he had the guns. So with a felony aggravated assault with new state gun charges, they still gave him a $5,000 bond. He got the bond, but the FBI nabbed him first. The feds got him before he could get out of Box Elder. Justin and I were never made aware that they even arrested him. We knew he got arrested. In our minds, he got arrested on the 30th, June 30th, from his property. But no, that was the FBI taking him from Box Elder County. Officer Iveson's report, he specifically states, do not give him bail. He's violent. He's going to retaliate against the victim. He's a threat to society and all those around him. The officer writes all of this. Bad dude. Box Elder still gives him bail.
You know, once again, it goes back to the having too many rights. And somebody that's a violent criminal. You said he served time for attempted murder? Yeah,
charged with it. It would have been murder, but the person lived.
I have this whole thing where I've always said that attempted murder is the same thing as murder.
It is. Yes.
Just because they didn't die, that to me the intent is still the same. So you can just charge them intent to murder should carry the same charge as actual murder. If you point a gun at somebody and shoot them through the stomach, and for some reason it just barely misses their large intestines or miss it barely by a centimeter, misses their spine, that doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, the intent is still the same.
Correct. And so what they do is they put these violent offenders back out on the street. I just covered a case, the Eliza Fletcher, woman from Tennessee, I believe, Knoxville, I believe, maybe it was Memphis. She's out jogging 4 a.m. She gets abducted and killed. Well, the man has just been out of prison for 20 years for something similar. He's released back out onto the street. He didn't kill the person, but he kidnapped them. And we're putting violent criminals back on the street at a very high rate and offering them $5,000 bond, I believe, is what, $500?
Yes. Yep.
Right. So even he could come up with that kind of scratch.
Yeah.
It's just it makes no sense. Now it sounds like they put a violent criminal out there around your son. Are there any plans for any culpability with that?
Absolutely. And so I want people to understand, wherever Justin and I decide to go with this, we are looking for awareness. We need families to be aware when you're put in the situation that we are, and not everybody has the capability that we do to drop ship and run. Some people got to choose between feeding the other kids they have at home and paying their house payment or finding their child. That's why, we started the Dillon Legacy already. We've already got a pile of money for EquiSearch. Our thing is awareness. We are a very strong family. We have a very strong backing before this happened. And now that this happens, we've got backing from worldwide. And people need to realize, don't be scared to scream out against law enforcement. If they're not doing what they're supposed to do and you find yourself in a situation like us, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, call me. I will hop a plane anywhere and come help you. A lot of people don't understand these organizations, these people that can help you. So our deal, when I say yes, there is absolutely going to be something happen, but it's not about the monetary, it's about the awareness. And law enforcement needs to be held accountable just like we are as citizens. If you're not going to do your job, if you're not going to stand up and protect, as you swear on a Bible to do when you get sworn in, then don't be there. Go somewhere else. And people need, they need to realize that. There's more help. I'm in touch with hundreds of mothers across the country that are like, holy crap, this is the same thing we went through, and we just crumpled in a corner, and we shouldn't have. And now they're starting to come out, and we're starting to get Equus Search to help them. And there's this whole new movement of people need to realize, like, there's all these do's and don'ts of when your child goes missing, your husband, your wife, your loved one. Let's call it loved one. And you need to realize that you can stand up, and you can make it happen. It's exhausting, but don't give up. You can do it.
Well said. Who is Robert Aviles?
Okay, so Robert Aviles gave Chase Venstra a ride to his four-wheeler at the Lucin Pond on Monday. Robert Aviles is I don't know if he's violent. I don't know what he was in prison for, but before all this happened with Dylan, I think he was out of prison. I think he just got out like 4 or 5 months earlier. Robert was just like Chase. So people got to realize, Chase is in jail now. When Justin and I put the $5,000 reward on Chase just to find out where he was, because he was a person of interest to us as a family, not of law enforcement, just to us. We handed Fox Elder County and Davis County, we handed them Chase and Robert. So these two people had some questionable circumstances that us as a family wanted to clear up. They are both back in custody, have been in custody, but they came forward in Dylan's case by themselves to say, hey, we had nothing to do with this. We did not harm this kid. They're both back in jail because of the fact that they came out. They didn't have to do that. They did not.
So they violated probation.
Well, yeah, and multiple other things.
Sure,
but
right, sure.
What got them both of them thrown back in jail was them trying to help us, saying we did not harm Dylan. This wasn't us. We'll go back to jail to prove to the fact we did not harm Dylan.
Did they have any information on who did?
Nope. And that's the thing. Every piece of evidence, factual evidence, not circumstantial, everything points back to that shed that morning Dylan put his grain truck in it. Absolutely everything. There is not a piece of evidence, not a phone record, nothing that points in any other direction. And that's why we finally came out with it all, because Bob Felder's going to charge him. I mean, they won't let go of the case, which is absolutely ridiculous to us, because they mocked us in that desert. They were terrible. All Bob Felder County is trying to do is save face. As far as the higher up, like I said, don't put the deputies and the search and rescue into that, because they've been amazing. But as far as the higher up, they want to be the ones to get the conviction to say, hey, we did this. We were here the whole time. It's like Kate Palmer made that statement. It wouldn't make sense to relinquish lead because we have spent so much time on it. Well, Bob Felder, what time have you spent? Because finally, I had a detective reach out to me last night, and only because our FBI agent's out of the country, and try to arrange stuff with me. And so when I question him on that, he says, well, Candis, either we're going to talk about flying the drone or I'm not going to talk to you. They're still ignorant to us.
Right.
And they wouldn't have talked to us if our communications guy was here. That's the first since August 29th, when Justin and I went and sat down and talked to him about relinquishing lead. That's the first time we've heard so many of them. Besides when they try to blast us in the media saying that family causes friction. Well, yeah, there's friction. You're not doing your job. The time before that, the last time we physically spoke to any of them was June 16th when we were out there when the search warrant was executed. So we went from June 16th to August 29th to yesterday, October, 10th, 11th? What is today?
Yesterday was the 12th.
Okay, so the 12th. So that's our communication with the lead agency.
Yeah,
months
not
in
great.
between communication. Not acceptable.
Not great communication at all.
Well, and not only that, but most of the evidence, I mean, the only thing that Bob Felder came up with was finding the phone, and that's only because the technology from the FBI and pinging it and knowing where to look. Other than that, the gun, the key fob, the boots, all the interviews, handing them Robert Aviles, handing them Chase Venstra. We, as a family, have done it all. We've done it all. So they want to prosecute. You can't even prosecute. Like, you can't even give the facts of how the evidence was found because you didn't find it. So how are you going to prosecute it?
Well, and another, so right now, exactly what we're dealing with is circumstantial evidence. But by the way, one of the things that I stomp on all the time is circumstantial evidence under the law is just as good as physical evidence.
Right.
You need more circumstantial evidence, but it seems as though there is a lot of circumstantial evidence in this case. Now, one of those things being that Robert Avila's and Chase Venstra, their phone pings show they were nowhere near Dylan's farm or shed or the property on the 28th, the day that he did disappear. But on June 5th, James Brenner did some spring cleaning in the shed.
No, June 2nd. June 2nd.
Okay, so the thing that I have in front of me is that a miss? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I got to get Jazz to correct that. It was June 2nd.
Because that's big, because kid goes missing the 28th, and there's
yeah, it was June 2nd.
He didn't wait long at all.
Mm-mm. And see, the thing with the spring cleaning, as I said, when the Diesel Brothers interview comes out, Jeff and I did that sitting inside that shed, and it is full of garbage and beer cans and all of Brenner stuff. He didn't spring clean anything. He was hiding evidence, and it doesn't take a detective to figure that out.
When you say, though, sorry to interrupt you, but when you say that Box Elder Sheriff's Office watched him remove 4 to 5 bags of garbage, yep. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
So Brenner pulled out Dylan's green truck. He pulled out the 10-wheeler without any permission. He pulled it out of the shed. At this point, we're down the road half a mile. We can still see everything that's going on up there because we had to be removed from the property because we were irritating him. He pulled out the green truck. The one officer that was out there with us, he went up and asked him what he was doing, and he said, "Oh, nothing but a little light spring cleaning." I personally watched him, and you don't even need binoculars to see it. It's clean as day. Take 4 garbage bags out of that shed, but it's still full of garbage. So what was he spring cleaning? What was he doing?
And the deputy attests to this.
But whether or not he would or he wouldn't doesn't matter. I'm sure he would under oath. But Detective Blower was there that day too. We all seen it. Everybody's seen it. Everybody who was there seen it.
Oh, you saw it as well.
I physically seen it. Yes.
And nobody stopped them.
Nope.
And what were you saying while this was going on?
Honestly, Josh, we were still in a fog. We were still in a fine Dylan. I knew there was something wrong with it. The rest of my family who's seen it, my niece, my daughter's seen it. We all knew something was wrong. But at this point, we're day 4 into it, and we're desperately trying to find Dylan. We don't know, what are we supposed to be looking for? What are we weren't in the mode of, we knew it was wrong, but we were still so emotionally distraught. What do you do? If law enforcement is seeing this happen, and they're saying it's okay, we were still kind of following lead. Well, if they don't think anything's wrong with it, maybe nothing's wrong with it. You get to the point, and Justin and I say it very well in the Nate Eaton interview, and we talk about it all the time. We're to the point, even almost 5 months into this, we second guess ourselves. We've taken very good notes. Everything's documented on calendars. We have a whole timeline. And I still have to go back through and read that to remind myself that I am not crazy, that this is actually what happened. This actually happened. We just weren't looking back on it now. I went to that shed and I wouldn't have cared what the deputy or the detective told me because we had permission from the owner of the property to be on it. And I would have bulldozed over that guy and I would have went and seen what was in that shed. But following law enforcement's lead, never being in this position and not knowing, you don't know to do that.
What do you think was in those 4 to 5 trash bags?
Well, knowing the evidence that has come out of the shed now, and that's the one thing, just know that there was evidence in it. That's what he was cleaning up, was evidence. Had to have been. There would have been no other reason.
I mean, that's a lot of are we talking, what are we talking, big black trash bags?
White ones, like the ones you get from Costco. They're probably Jones garbage bags, because I always thought his at Costco.
Oh, okay. So like you would have in your kitchen.
Yeah, and like super light.
Gotcha.
Like he's just talking in the back of his pickup, like light, like nothing heavy, nothing that, just
possibly his clothes. I'm not saying Dylan's clothes. I'm saying maybe Brenner's clothes to get rid of to take him to a burn barrel type situation.
Who knows? But I bet you there's over 500 beer cans on the floor of that shop or that shed from Jim. Garbage everywhere. But whatever those four were, and that's just the bags that I see. Then people started rolling in from that were personally help us search, and I got focused on where they'd been. Who knows how many there was? What I personally seen was 4.
And the rest of it was just a mess still.
Yes, absolute disaster.
Gotcha. So he didn't care about anything else besides very important stuff.
He definitely didn't care about the garbage.
Right.
There was specific stuff he was looking at to clean out of there. Oh, I was just going to say, kind of like moving Dylan's boots out by the dirt pile.
Right. Yeah. In the pond look, yep. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence going on here. I mean, like you said, you got a violent criminal in the area that did Dylan, let me ask you this. Did Dylan have, or does Dylan have a temper?
No.
So what do you think was the catalyst here? Meaning, the reason I ask you that is, did he say, hey, get your crap and get off my property, or get out of my this or that?
No, and it wasn't Dylan's property yet. My honest opinion, and what my gut tells me, especially knowing Brenner's history now, is, so Brenner was always, it's like Justin said, Brenner was always a little jealous of Dylan. You got this 19-year-old kid. Brenner met him when he was 17, living his dream. Family's helping him. Like, Dylan's going to make his dream. Brenner was very protective of that property, even though it wasn't his. Brenner was always aggravated if Dylan would lay that gate down when he wasn't around, because he kept it locked, even though it wasn't his property. He had this wild horse he wanted to keep in. My personal thought, and for all your listeners, this is just, I can see the scenario in my head. Our whole family can. Brenner was mad that morning. He was mad. Dylan laid the gate down yet again because he had full permission to have access to the property. I guarantee you there was a confrontation, and everything happened right there. Everything. And I truly believe it was a snap moment. All of Brenner's history, all of his charges, when you look back through all the court documents, which I'll get all of them to you, Josh, every charge he's ever had has been a snap moment. Just a snap moment.
Right.
Nothing premeditated, nothing, just, he's a snap dude. He's just that kind of person. He's nobody, he was in my backyard in his camper for months, 3 weeks, when him and Dylan were taking down the pivot. He'd been at Justin's grandfather's house with Dylan. We both had interactions with him.
So you had a previous relationship with this guy?
No, not relationship.
Well, interactions. You'd known him. You'd known him.
Yes.
Okay.
He is not a family friend. People need to get that out of their head. Not a family friend, just an acquaintance. But there was nothing, as a mother, and a mother's intuition is better than anything. There was nothing as a mother, him meeting the guy and taking Dylan groceries out there, taking him Easter dinner for the last 2 years since Brenner's been there, 3 years since Dylan was out there working. There was nothing that would make you say, ooh, son, you need to watch this guy, or don't be around him, or there was nothing.
But he was friends with Dylan.
Yeah, I mean, you got to realize there's 9 people who live in that valley.
Sure.
you're gonna be. I wouldn't call it friends. They didn't hang out. I mean, Brenner would help him work on the farm from time to time.
Right.
He'd help him. You know, he drove beat truck for him last year. I mean, as far as friends, no, I wouldn't say friends.
You
but
work
I mean,
for him. Yeah.
Yeah, acquaintances. You know, like you got to take the socialization you can get out there.
Sure.
And that's the other thing that people don't realize. Dylan didn't live out there full time, not even close. The only time Dylan was out there is if this was his first crop. This year was going to be his first crop. He'd go out there and work for a couple weeks, work the ground, get ready to put his pivot in, and then he'd come to southern Idaho, or he'd go to eastern Idaho, or he'd go work for the Wine Cup, or he'd go out to Independence Valley. Like, Dylan was all over the place working. His camp trailer out there was a place for him to rest his head after long days of work on his farm. But I mean, if you were to add it up, you might be talking 3 weeks total out of the whole year he spent in Lucin.
Is that have you received criticism for people thinking that he lived out there like that full time?
Oh yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Or that we threw him out into the desert. Or people don't realize that ground has been developed. I mean, there's a reason why there are deep wells out there that you can already put a pivot in.
Well, he was also a grown pretty. I mean, at the time he went missing. I mean, he was a grown boy. He's 19 years old.
Well, and even at 19 years old, you know, a lot of people think, well, he's a kid. Well, yeah, he still is a kid, but as that kid, Dylan had already accomplished more than most grown men do at the age of 40.
And Dylan, by the way, had every right to live wherever he wanted because he was 19 years old.
Yeah, he was an adult. But Dylan's whole reason for being out there was $300 an acre ground with water rights.
Right.
Dylan never has ever wanted to work for somebody. He's taken a page out of his father's book, and he's taken a page out of my book. And neither one of us have ever worked for somebody. And Dylan, our youngest son Colton, and our daughter Brooklyn, all three of them the same way. Make your own schedule, do your own thing. So when Dylan was turned onto this ground back in 2018, at $300 an acre with water rights and deep wells, everything in southern Idaho and eastern Idaho is anywhere between $8,000 and $15,000 an acre. And Dylan has never wanted to work for anybody. So he gets turned onto this ground. It's affordable. Grandpa helps buddy up with him. They buy this 640 acres. What they bought that 640 acres for, I don't think you could step out and buy 20 acres for in our area.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
that's why he chose that area, and he was going to redevelop it into farmland. It's already all been farmland. I mean, there's 20 water hookups, 20 power hookups where that shed is. I believe it was Simplot who used to farm it. They finally pulled out because it's just, you know, you're 20 miles, well, 10 miles off of pavement and 60 miles to anywhere. You know, it's not realistic for most people, but to Dylan, it's perfect. It's never going to get sold into houses. Nobody's going to come develop it. The deep wells are there. The water rights are there. Go rip the ground back out and put your crop in, and that's exactly what he did.
Right. Yeah, and like you said, you know, look, he had a life plan. You know, he was wanting to do what he wanted to do. The criticism of that you guys have received in this is completely unfair, and it's reaching, and it's worse than reaching. It's none of that is important. He was a 19-year-old boy doing what he needed to do. He was working.
Well, and I have said it in a lot of interviews. COVID hit perfect for Dylan. You know, here he is in high school, 16 years old. Boom, COVID hit. School canceled. March of 2020. Dylan's like, I don't have to go to school. Like, you can't even make me because there's not even school.
Right.
I'm going to go farm. And he just has taken it and ran with it. And there is nothing wrong with that. I mean, I remember, you know, as soon as I graduated high school, I was out of my parents' house.
Sure.
All these, I don't know why these people think, like, we don't need to coddle our kids until they're 27.
Right.
Like, they don't need to live in the basement. Like, they're capable adults. I mean, you look back through history and you see the change of time. I mean, back in the 30s and 40s, women were having kids at 14, and that was perfectly acceptable. It's been our society that has changed and decided what an adult is. I will tell you, when Dylan was 14, he was an adult.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You know, I've never met Dylan, and but from everything that I know about this story, that the people that are criticizing you, their children aren't like Dylan, and they had never probably dealt with a kid like Dylan who had drive and wanted to get out on his own and work. I mean, he's a real cowboy. Really, he really is.
Oh, I still sit here and we're in beet harvest here in southern Idaho. Dylan has this Freightliner truck. We always call him White Lightning. It's White Lightning. I still catch myself. You know, he rented a trailer last year on his own, a triaxle trailer, and he hauled beet heck until January last year. And like, we had the sound like, oh, here comes White Lightning, skipping a couple gears, but he's still getting her done, and just smile and laugh as here comes my, 19-year-old son, out working most of the people out here hauling beef day in and day out. And it's been hard because this year there's no White Lightning.
Right.
But that's how he was. I mean, you're talking about a kid that could drive an 18-wheeler better than anybody who goes to truck driving school. Like, that's what he did. That's what he knew. That's what he was raised with. My parents own their own businesses. His grandparents on the other side, their own businesses. His aunts, his uncles, the whole family, that's what he grew up with, and that's what he was going to do.
Right. So this one I'm going to need your help on a little bit more. This is one of the last newly released pieces of information where it says evidence was present that James Brenner walked his horse from the shed property to the railroad tracks during the time period Dylan went missing, 5/28 to 5/29. The dates, those are dates, not times. And then his horse went one direction and he went the other. What is significant about that?
So that was on day number 2. We found that my sister and my brother-in-law. So day number 1, search and rescue found horse tracks out by the fence. And then they talked to Brenner and he said, yeah, that was my horse and I was walking him. So then my sister and brother-in-law, they arrived late that night. The next morning, we go back out. The tracks from that horse and Brenner, and he admitted it was him, actually, when you followed him the whole way, went straight to the train tracks. That train stops for maintenance. It's a UP train, and I have been in touch with Union Pacific, and they do have a bulletin out on their internal police force. That horse spun in some circles. Brenner scuffled around his boot tracks, and then Brenner took off walking straight back to his camper. So I would say like 400 yards. The horse was clearly led there with him. He went one way back to his camper, and the horse took off towards Lucin Pond, and the other way clearly wasn't being led anymore. And, as much as I've been out there with my husband and how many times we've visited, and we know all about the horse. It's a wild horse that he tamed. That was the whole point of the gate. That whole area is fenced.
Yep.
Brenner doesn't walk that horse.
Gotcha.
So I did, and the FBI reached out to Union Pacific also, and they have an internal bulletin if anything's found on a car, but it makes no sense. And why would you be out walking your horse that you never walked and doing it in the mud?
I mean, once again, more circumstantial evidence to a case. But my question here is, with the information present and the information that you haven't released, and I'm assuming that is more damning than this as well.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable and confident that if he's indicted for Dylan's murder, that it will hold up in front of a jury?
I don't know, Josh. A jury is here's the problem right now. So like, if you've seen the pictures of Brenner released in the beginning, and you see the pictures of him now, he is deteriorating so much. So if you get an unbiased jury and they look at this man right now, to look at him, if you were going to convict him of what happened, circumstantial, all the other evidence, he looks half dead. I think that's what he will play if he has a good attorney, which we now know his public defender has moved to not be defending him. As a jury, I don't know if I have confidence in that.
Right.
There's such a biased opinion on that. When you look at a person and you're like, well, you know, you couldn't even pick up a gallon of milk now, how much he's deteriorated, and huge alcoholic. Brenner's a huge alcoholic, and that's been part of his deterioration. I don't know.
So
and truly, I don't have faith in it.
And this is my opinion, but after covering many cases, it sounds like without a body, if in fact Dylan is deceased, and let's always hold on to that miracle that he's not,
right?
Because we have no clear-cut evidence other than proof of life, and there doesn't seem to be any at this moment. The one thing that is going to be hard to do, and like you said, you look at this man, he doesn't look like he can lift a gallon of milk at the time. Cause of death. It doesn't take much to shoot somebody. And the man, and personally, and I'm kind of stepping out over the interview here, but I mean, the man was indicted on gun charges, felony gun charges, because he's not supposed to have them. So I would assume that is, the route that he would go when he committing these crimes that he does.
Right. And so one thing on being indicted on the charges, this is number 3.
Right.
This is the first time.
And, you get into this whole legal jargon of, is his record going to be admitted to the jury, which it very well should be, because it goes directly to his behavior. Right. And, sometimes and that's the look, this is going to be a battle.
So here's my feelings and my opinion, and I can pretty much speak for the family because we all feel the same way. There is no doubt in our minds that Brenner did this whatsoever. Not an ounce of doubt. Right now, truly, as a family, we don't care what happens to Brenner. Justice will come. What we need is to bring Dylan home. We all read through the same scenario in our head. We all talk. I mean, even Dylan's siblings, all of us, we all have no doubt in our head what happened out there. Whether or not the courts can prove it is one thing. What we need is Brenner to be charged. And even at that, the attorney can still decline interviews, and, he's got his rights, unfortunately. But now that we know his public defender has dropped him, we know that he's been trying to represent himself. He has been calling the family. He wants to talk. And we'll let justice take its course, however that happens. What we want is for him to tell us what he did with Dylan.
So say the district attorney gets, this goes to the DA, and you're getting ready they're getting ready to charge him with something. And by all accounts, they very well could charge him with something at any time with this information that you have, but it goes to the strength of the case. Would you guys be willing to negotiate a lesser charge, such as like manslaughter or something, if he was to tell you the location of Dylan?
We want Dylan. That is our focus. We will never have any peace unless we have Dylan. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if Box Elder does their job and charges them with their charges, and whatever happens with the federal charges, Brenner's never going to walk out of jail alive. And it would probably be better for him if he didn't.
Sure.
But yes, we don't even care. We don't even care if he's ever charged with it, if he's ever prosecuted. We want Dylan. That's all we want. The rest will fall into place afterwards. We just want Dylan.
And I can understand it and appreciate you saying that. But I'll tell you that when you do find Dylan, then you will want that justice.
Yes. So, and I agree with you 100%. And that's a very good point you put out to me. Yes.
Because I just know what that's like. You know, like I said, I've dealt with the court systems for years. So, it's one step at a time. Just tell me what you did, where he is, and then after that, you know, if you guys, and some of it is up to you, but not all of it. If he's shown any grace at all.
Well, and even at this point, we don't need the what you did. Where?
Just tell us.
Where did you put Dylan?
Yeah.
Because when he tells us where he put Dylan, we will know what he did.
Of course.
We will know. So you know, it's kind of like, you know, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
So do you think that with these gun charges that are looming and is, I don't know, he must be going to trial for it.
I'm very leery of the federal gun charges. And the prosecutor who's prosecuting it he's amazing and he's trying really hard. But what people got to realize, the only reason he's on federal gun charges is A, our FBI agent is absolutely amazing. B, they got Don to admit Brenner gave him the 22. But when you're talking about going into federal court, they never arrested Brenner with that 22. He never had possession of it when they arrested him. So it turns into a he said, she said game.
All right.
That gun has no serial numbers on it, and that's all public information.
They're filed off?
Yes, filed off. And Brenner never had possession of that gun when he was arrested.
And so you don't think these charges are going to stick?
I truly don't believe so. You know, I've been digging into a lot of it and looking at a lot of it, but it goes back to that old saying, possession is 9/10 of the law. And Brenner never had possession of it when he was arrested.
Yeah, there's also a saying, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Right. So
that's a big deal.
If he was not arrested with that 22, and that's all it was a 22, it's played out. But now that we know his public defender has dropped him, like if he's gonna represent himself, if he represents himself, it's going to stick.
Oh, he'll get the electric chair. I mean, it's just a stupid idea.
Yeah. But here's my thing, Josh. And it's like I told you before we came on to this interview. He's been wanting to represent himself for almost 2 months now. And they've been trying to stop it from happening. And my thoughts is, let him represent himself. Because the second he represents himself, he can be interviewed.
Well, they can try to stop him from doing it. But they can't stop him.
No, well, and obviously I'm pretty sure that's exactly what just happened.
Yeah, that's probably why his attorney said, look, if he's not going to take my advice, he doesn't want me here. He wants to represent himself. He's doing things I'm telling him not to. Judge, I want out of here. And the judge says, all right, look, judges do not want to deal with this kind of, because it turns into a mockery. Brenner's not a lawyer, and the judge desperately, whoever's going to be over that, does not want to deal with that.
Right.
But it's his right. It is his constitutional right to represent himself at his own trial. It's just a really stupid idea, but criminals tend to make really stupid decisions most of the time. That's why he's been in and out of prison his entire life, you know?
Yeah.
But my question is this. Is there a chance that they give some leverage with his open case right now and Dylan's case? Is that something that's been talked about and worked on? Like, hey, like we'll drop these charges.
No.
Nothing.
No.
Do you know why?
No. And there's so many questions we have against Fox Elder and like I know why the feds aren't dropping the case. They truly have our back. The longer they can keep Brenner in, the better. As soon as if those charges are dropped and he hits Fox Elder, he's out. He's already made bonds with Fox Elder. He's out. There and you know, you go back into all this. You know, people think about this conspiracy and what does Brenner have on Fox Elder? No, none of that. There's no conspiracy theory. There's no they're trying to cover for Brenner. Or Brenner has something on him. The only thing Fox Elder's trying to cover is their negligence and incompetence in the beginning. And they keep trying to shut us down at every avenue, and it's not going to happen. As far as the feds, they truly want to keep Brenner in. They truly want to sink Brenner. It turns into this. Everybody wants to read more into it than it is, but it's really not there.
Right. It's just it's a legal matter.
It's a legal matter, and it's a frustrating legal matter because, as you said, right now, Brenner has more rights than we do or Dylan does.
It's 100% correct. Dylan has no rights and no voice other than you.
Yeah.
And that is infuriating to me because obviously there is substantial evidence that puts this man at, near, and at the scene, and then after the fact, there's a motive. There is obviously he was cleaning up, which is something that he obviously doesn't do. So, but once again, it always goes back to it's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Yep.
So, yep. In the long and short of it here, do you expect him to be charged with these crimes soon?
I hope so. That's why Justin and I decided to release everything. And as I said, we're at a brick wall. We find Dylan and get evidence, or Brenner talks. There's no other direction to go. So we are continuously pushing for both of them. We're the ones out there arranging the search for Dylan, not Fox Elder. We're not going to let this go. We're going to find our son and bring him home.
I believe that. I always have. And
we're not going to let it go.
And God bless you. You know, obviously we want Dylan to come home safe and sound. We know the statistics. You and I have had that conversation. Yeah. But that's still the hope. But yeah. Justice and some peace of mind. That's what you guys deserve.
And yeah, I hate to cut you short, but I'm getting a call from one of the law enforcement.
Not a problem at all. Thank you, Candis. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Yep. I'll call you back and inform you on what's going on.
Okay.
Now.
No problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And a very in-depth, thorough interview from Candus Cooley, who has always been so forthcoming. You know, say what you want about the way that they're handling this. It is their son, and I don't believe that they would do anything that they felt was compromising to the investigation. I think that what they're doing is just really having to push for what they believe needs to happen. And at some point you feel like you're just backed into a wall. And I feel that is what they feel. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but they feel that is true. And so once again, we always support the victims on this show, and Candis, Justin, and that family on both sides are victims. And it seems as though without him going through a trial yet, that there was a perpetrator walking around, interacting with people that should have been locked away once again. And, you know, he will have his day in court if he is charged. And that's going to be an uphill battle as well. But thank you for tuning in to The Lab. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. My guest, Candus Cooley. Great as always. And really, I'm rooting for that family to get the justice that is deserved. Thank you for listening.